Good morning. It's good to see you all.
Good morning. Chair Dexter, Vice Chairs Friis-Iverson and Gamba, members of the committee, you look wonderful on this Tuesday. Thanks for having me. My name is Lucetta Elmer, State Representative for District 24, which includes most of Yamhill County and a little bit of Polk County. And I am so excited to be here today talking about housing. Excuse the cough drop, but it's either I suck on this or I cough in the microphone, so I figured this was the better option.
Great.
I'm going to introduce and I have slides, and talk about the bill, just an overview, and then I have amazing people here that can go into more depth and tell you how great it is and answer any questions. All right. So, am I running the slides? Okay, perfect. Okay, so House Bill 4134, Housing Oregon's Workforce, or we can shorten that to HOW. And you can see sponsors, although I think we have some more that have signed on since last night. So we all recognize there's a problem. We have a problem of housing shortage in Oregon, and we have a problem with infrastructure. So this bill is looking to address both of those. We rank 47th nationally for housing production, which is sad. You know, we're way down there at the bottom in how many houses that we're producing for our citizens. And we also have a lack of infrastructure dollars, specifically in rural cities. And I come from a rural district, and I hear that come up over and over and over, that my small cities just really struggle to keep up with the infrastructure costs, and to be able to pass that cost on to the citizens who are paying into those utility bills is tough when, let's say, you only have 600 people that are all paying for utility. That's really hard to try to gather money from such a small amount. Housing affordability limit excludes large portion of Oregon's workforce. And today specifically, this bill is around sort of that workforce housing. So we're thinking firefighters, teachers, nurses. So the solution, how? Housing Oregon's workforce. We're looking at projects that are site-specific infrastructure dollars for shovel-ready projects. These projects are already inside the UGB, and they're ready to go. Projects are a direct correlation to housing production. Got to look at my notes here real quick. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. McMinnville, the city of McMinnville came to me last year, early on, and they're the ones that really are the brainchild of this, and they had this idea, which they pitched, and then we've spent many months working together on this, and I really think it's such a smart concept of how we're merging public tax dollars with private dollars to get the biggest bang for our buck. So we're looking at cities that are under 50,000, and we did an ask throughout. We reached out through the Mayor's Association to all cities under 50,000, and we asked if they had any land that was already in the UGB, that was shovel ready to go, that was maybe not able to produce housing because there was a stop because of infrastructure. So that was kind of the general parameters of how we started and to seek out properties that would work in this bill. The project needs to be completed within 24 months, the infrastructure portion, and then the housing within 60 months. So we did put some time restrictions on there. We're really trying to be efficient and get these housing doors, or get these doors open as quickly as possible. If the local developer decides they want to be a part of this and they want to go ahead and have public dollars pay for the infrastructure, then in exchange, they're going to make 30% of the housing units available for 130% AMI or less. So it's sort of that give-get package, which I love. So the projected new housing unit availability, it's going to produce over 1,000 doors. And we're looking at 10 major projects throughout the state. You can see there the cities that are a part of it right now. I remember Anna told me this slide is supposed to be exactly the same, so good. It is. We nailed that. So Coming from a business background, I didn't want to mandate. We can talk all day long about affordability, but the standards by which this is defined must pencil for the folks building our housing. And I understood that. I also realize how responsible I want to be, as we all want to be, with state tax dollars. So as we were just really trying to put this all together, we didn't want to be controlling, but we also wanted to put parameters around it that we could see the biggest success. So again, that is why there's certain parts of the policy that are so important, and the integrity of this bill is so important to me. I mean, yes, we want these projects to get funded. We want to see doors get open, but the policy piece is beautiful, and I really hope that that can stay intact so that we can have that give-get relationship. So like I said, there's going to be a little over 1,000 units of new housing. The total, I think that might have been read in the bill. I'm not sure if it was the exact same amount, but a little under 25 million. And we're looking at street improvements, sewer system expansions, utility lines. I believe there's some water projects in there. And it comes out to around $22,000 a door that we would be allocating for those infrastructure needs. So this model differs a little bit from some others that we've seen, but it complements a lot of them. One of the issues that we identified in these rural cities is that a lot of times you have cities that just have really small staffs, and it's hard for them to navigate grant processes or to even know exactly what all of their options are when they're looking to try to develop out their cities. So we are doing a direct allocation. The money would go directly to the cities and bypass an agency to where it might get held up. So I think that is another way that we can make sure that this is efficient. So there's no extra program to set up, and hopefully that will help these cities with small staffs. And affordability, again, is targeted to that workforce. So again, we're looking at teachers, nurses, firefighters, police officers. And then one more time to just really talk about that public-private partnership, investing state dollars efficiently and effectively for the good of our communities. And I love that private-public partnership. I am looking at a -1 amendment. I know we won't be voting on that today or anything, but the city of Dayton didn't feel that their developer would be able to meet the timelines, and so they asked to be removed, and we did identify 2 other projects that fit within this model, the city of Dallas and the city of Cave Junction. Okay, before questions, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Nick.
Thank you, Chair Dexter, Vice Chair Breeze Iverson. Pleasure to be with you this morning. What I would impress upon you is that the city of Madras, I think, is a great case study. A small rural community, 8,000, since 2019 have made some phenomenal policy changes to address the housing needs in our community. That being changing our regulations. Before we're required to comply with House Bill 2001. We have streamlined our permitting process. We've reduced our SDCs for workforce housing by 50% and 75% for multifamily housing. On top of it, we've made a lot of our local taxing districts a little unhappy by establishing a dedicated housing urban renewal district, which is proving to be very successful. Unfortunately, since 2019, we've permitted over 225 new dwellings in our community. 90% of those are market rate. So we are clearly not getting the workforce housing. And the one aspect I would impress upon you today is a small rural community has some challenges that maybe the bigger cities don't have. So for the city of Madras, when we borrow $500,000, for every $500,000 we borrow for wastewater or water improvement projects, that increases our rates by $1. So when you have 2,000 ratepayers, the impact to our rates to finance necessary infrastructure is immense. That problem doesn't exist in the larger communities because they have more ratepayers. So we have this highest sewer rates in Central Oregon already, trying to invest in our sewer and water infrastructure to address the housing. And so what we're hearing from our developers is financing costs right now, high interest rates, and the infrastructure are really critical. This bill would help us immensely. Appreciate your time this morning and consideration of our circumstances.
Thank you. Jody.
Good morning. For the record, Jody Hack here on behalf of the Oregon Home Builders this morning and the Oregon Realtors. Chair Dexter, Vice Chairs Breeze Iverson, and Vice Chair Gamba. We're here in support of House Bill 4134. And as you've heard, rural communities are struggling with infrastructure. And we all know we're in a housing crisis, so I'm not going to belabor that anymore. But we're just supportive of the moderate income housing components of this bill, the infrastructure components, and also the affordability components. I think one thing that we should also focus on this morning is that there's going to be a trickle-down effect with this. This may begin with 1,000 units, but there is an opportunity for many, many more units to come from this. These projects will affect one individual subdivision, as the representative spoke to. But in addition to that, there are multitudes of other subdivisions that are connected and tied to these that are also sitting and waiting in the pipeline for these pieces of infrastructure that these small rural communities have not been able to bring forward. So while it looks like it's about 1,000 units now, over time, that will be significantly much more. So just wanted to point that out as well. So with that, we'll take some questions. One other thing I would add in addition, though, is we want to make sure that these dollars that get directly allocated for infrastructure this session, that those come out of the city CIP, their capital improvement plans. We don't want those funds to be given and then not taken out of those plans and passed on to the developers and the builders through continued SDC fees. So that is something that we want to make sure that we address through these pieces of legislation throughout this session. But again, absolutely supportive of the concept. We want to see infrastructure and more housing built, especially in rural communities. This is a tool and a way that we can get some things up and running in a quick hurry. So I would say very supportive.
Great. Thank you so much. Any questions from the committee? All right. It looks like you're good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So I will close the public. Oh, sorry. More people. Oh, goodness. Yay. Thank you. Oh, sorry. I'm very professional this morning. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead if you want. Go ahead.
I've got a list right here. I just didn't see it. So excellent. Okay. Dave Honeycutt, followed by Beth Castor and Ariel Nelson. And you guys can all come up if you're ready. Okay. Yep. And Beth, I know you're online, or hopefully you're online. Not yet. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Dave Honeycutt, Oregon Property Owners Association, here in support of House Bill 4134. As Ms. Hack said, one of the things that we like about this bill is that these infrastructure projects will primarily benefit workforce and affordable housing projects. I especially like the fact that the cities have gotten together, discussed with the representative their specific needs, and those needs are named in the bill itself. I think that's a good way to fund infrastructure projects. But the other part that's important is that these infrastructure improvements will make improvements to the city, not only for these specific projects, but for other projects down the line. So this should result in a level of significantly increased development possibilities inside the boundary, well beyond the specific projects that are targeted, the specific affordable and workforce projects that are targeted. So it's a good bill. Like it very much. Appreciate it. Don't forget land supply, and don't forget process changes. But infrastructure is another important key, so we're very supportive of it. And thank you for your time.
Why was he looking at you?
Good morning, Chair Dexter, members of the committee. For the record, Ariel Nelson here on behalf of the League of Oregon Cities. And as a reminder, the League represents all 241 incorporated cities in the state of Oregon. Cities are working urgently across the state to address Oregon's housing crisis, to encourage the development of needed housing. We are talking about a range of policies and tools this session, as we have in previous sessions. Not all tools work for all cities, but the common denominator, the most powerful tool that we can strongly say is needed for all cities is infrastructure investment. The most powerful tool the state can deploy to address our housing crisis is focused infrastructure investments to support housing. This bill, House Bill 4134, is a great example of that. It is a focused package, clearly defined goals, clear ties to the affordability that's so desperately needed in so many communities. We hope that it will be an important part of the considerations this session. We recognize it's a short session and not all of the infrastructure needs can, of course, be funded across the state, but this is an excellent deserving package, and we hope it's considered in the larger conversation with other deserving projects across the state. And we remain willing and able to support the conversation and appreciate the legislature taking the time to, apply that careful lens and figure out how to prioritize scarce state resources. Again, this bill has done a lot of that work for you with its focused programming. We think it can be an example in years to come. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Dave or Ariel? Great, thank you so much. 4134, and we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Oh, I see. It doesn't.
Uh-oh. Beth, I think you're muted.
How about now?
I can hear you just fine, thanks.
Yay! That's a button that there are some in my community that would pay big bucks to have that capability. just to let you know. Good morning, Chair Dexter and Vice Chair Breeze Iverson. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Beth Castor. I live and work here in McMinnville, Oregon. I've lived here since 1994, and I've been a licensed realtor in Oregon since 2000. I currently hold the designated license status of principal broker. I remain deeply involved with our city planning process as well as my state business association. I do want to be clear that I am speaking today as a citizen, and I'm not speaking with any affiliation to anyone else. I am voicing my support for House Bill 4134. As a realtor, I witness every single day the fact that our community is in a housing shortage crisis right now. And I do not use this word lightly. It's a stumbling block for many of us, for companies working who want to bring in workers. We have trouble finding appropriate, adequate housing for them. These workers will often need to live in Salem or Beaverton areas and commute to their new job. This applies across the board to not only the properties for sale, but also for rentals. This ongoing crisis contributes, in my opinion, to driving the prices of rents and properties up, often out of reach for teachers, firefighters, medical personnel, and tech workers. In order for our community to grow new jobs, this means providing middle housing has become imperative. HB 4134 provides a vehicle for an already approved subdivision to move forward with the infrastructure needed. The already approved subdivision does not encroach on any farm or timberland or require any reassignment of city zoning. The provision that 30% of the units must be placed at the workforce level is critical. The incentive for developer and builders to create these critical units ensures that our solutions are of many types and creative, such as townhouses, cottage clusters, small homes, duplexes or triplexes, to meet not only the current needs, but those for our foreseeable future. It also provides the opportunity to create homes for sale for those with sufficient income. This shovel-ready subdivision has currently 290 lots. I suspect that as we add in the capacity to add townhouses, duplexes, cottage clusters, etc., that the net result will be higher than that. The provision for a greater density with the above-mentioned options may make it a higher number of livable, affordable units. The need for this legislation is urgent and critical to help our community and many communities like ours to resolve our housing crisis. Thank you for listening to me this morning.
Thank you so much, Beth. It was good to hear you. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor Remy Drapkin, please come on up. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Chair Dexter, Vice Chair Brees Iverson, and Vice Chair Gamba. I'm delighted to be here today. I've submitted a little letter for your review as well that's bullet pointed for a fast read, but I do want to underline keeping the policy intact with this funding. The highlights that have been mentioned, some of them have more specificity. So we talked about this being matched to local AMI. One thing that happens for us in rural communities is we get wrapped up in Portland area MSA. And so then if it's just AMI and it's not based on census data and it's not the county local numbers, then all of a sudden that skews what our affordability metrics look like. So keeping the policy intact with the funding is important. The direct allocation aspect of this is important as well. If this money was to flow through an agency where then we have to be applying for a grant or go through a process, we're not going to get the money in time to implement the infrastructure, which is going to ultimately allow the developer to start their work. So again, keeping the policy intact. There are some other highlights of it, but policy intact, policy intact, policy intact is my big takeaway. I want to quickly tell you about McMinnville's project. So we are one of the water infrastructure projects. This is actually a project that was approved for development in 2007, and it hasn't developed in 17 years. And it hasn't developed because the cost of the infrastructure is the developer's responsibility, and that has prohibited these 290 tax lots from developing. Now, you gave us House Bill 2001, which means our developer can do more than what they were planning on doing when this was approved in 2007. So they're able to compensate for the offsets of creating that 30% dedicated for workforce housing. What we didn't have previously were the tools to really flex House Bill 2001. So how Housing Oregon's workforce, this is how you do it. You are giving us a tool to do this. It is, for us, very important that this is understood as a one-time stopgap infrastructure investment for the developers that's passed through the city. And in return, as was previously stated, we're not only opening up these lots, but we're opening up more down the line. So for McMinnville, we get this infrastructure in, we open up our 290 lots, so that's the minimum now that is going to be developed. But actually, that water infrastructure that will be in place is then going to open up a total eventually of 700 more lots that just haven't been planned for development yet. So it is a gift that keeps giving, and I thank you very much for your time. I hope that you choose to move this forward in a way that both gives these rural communities these opportunities which we sometimes otherwise miss because of our size and our location. We don't have the same access to funding. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Madam Mayor, if I can just get you to say your name for the record.
Oh, yes, Remy Drapkin.
Thank you so much.
City of McMinnville.
All right. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing on House Bill 4134